Hey guys, it's Miss Molly. I'm here for our Friday Tween book talk discussion. I have a whole bunch of books for you guys. I read all of these just for you. They're also just really good. But if you guys are kind of in that midsummer slump and you're struggling to find something to read, or if you have to read something for school and you're like, oh, crud, it's almost August, I have to read something, these are some great books for you. If you guys don't have assigned summer reading, then you can read whatever you want. Really, your teachers just really want you to read. I really want you to read. And I have a whole bunch of different books for you. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. So let's get to it. Also, as a reminder, make sure that you're registered for summer reading if you haven't registered already. Make sure you're logging your hours. Make sure that you're putting in all of your codes for all of the activities that you're doing so you can win all the awesome prizes that we have at the end of summer, whether that's for the teen program or the children's program, because these books are for anyone really who ages like 8 to 13, maybe some more, who knows. So I have a whole list, so let's get started. So the first book I'm going to talk about with you guys is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. If you guys don't know about Rick Riordan, I'm not sure where you've been, but he's kind of amazing. He also lives in Massachusetts, which is kind of cool. So Rick Riordan wrote the Percy Jackson series, which is a mythology series, and they became so famous that he got his own publishing company, which is a publishing company, if you don't know, is a company that makes books. They're the ones who actually put books out into the world. So he created a whole publishing company based around books about mythology, specifically about people who live in those cultures. So Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky is one that might be a little bit more familiar to you guys because it's actually American mythology and it's really cool. If you guys have read the legend of John Henry or Brer Fox, Brer Rabbit, all of those, Anansi, which is an African American tale, all of these characters are in here. Unfortunately, Tristan did something he doesn't quite know he did. He kind of accidentally punched a hole in the sky in another world, and as a result, he has to fix it. Otherwise, this entire world's going to be eaten up by a flaming, fiery hole in the sky, and it's kind of terrifying. But along the way, he meets John Henry, he meets Brer Fox, he meets Hi John, all of these heroes who can help him, and he's also a storyteller. He has this magical power that when he tells stories, the stories come to life, and it's this whole big thing. It's really cool. So I actually just finished this last night. Don't come for me, but I'm gonna say that I like it better than Percy Jackson, and I love Percy Jackson. So if you guys liked Percy Jackson, definitely check this out. And the sequel, I believe, just came out, and if you like it, there's a whole other bunch of books that this company's put out that you can also read. Next, I have a book that's a little bit more serious, but also really good. If you guys have never read a book in verse is a book that's in poetry format. So I'll show you kind of what it looks like. That was my mistake. This is not the book that's in verse. Whoops. Okay, we'll get to the book in verse in a little bit. But this one's kind of about middle school and people liking you, and it gets kind of confusing. It gets kind of confusing as an adult too, trust me. It doesn't get any easier. But this book is called Maybe He Just Likes You by Barbara D. And what it's about is, you have every right to not have someone do something you don't like. Whether that's ask you for a hug, you're allowed to say no. Or if they're teasing you a lot. And it's even harder to go to an adult and ask for help sometimes because it's embarrassing and uncomfortable and you don't want to talk about it. And it also feels kind of like tattling. But you have to do what makes you happy and what makes you feel safe. And for the character in this book, that's what she had to do. But she has a long time to get there because sometimes you don't know if it's just a game or if it's something more. It gets really confusing, but you have to listen to your own heart, and you also have to listen to your own gut. If something's making you uncomfortable, you get to always come to an adult. And this book kind of talks about that. Next, I have a book that's actually pretty funny, if I do say so myself. It's called Stand Up Yumi Chung, and it's by Jessica Kim. So Yumi Chung has always wanted to be a comedian. Her entire life, she's wanted to be a comedian, and she has this YouTuber who she follows who's a comedian who she absolutely adores. The sad part is her parents don't quite agree with her. Her parents are Korean American and they run a restaurant. And Yumi has to take summer classes this summer because her parents aren't able to afford her school tuition anymore. So she has to go to this really, really intensive summer class so that she can win a scholarship. But when she's walking home one day, there's this new theater, and she walks in, and there's the YouTube hero that she's loved her entire life, the one that she's obsessed with. And all of a sudden, before she knows it, she's leading this double life, and she learns that one white lie can kind of snowball into a lot more than that. But maybe if you apologize, you can get more, and it works out. So if you like comedy and you like learning about different cultures, definitely check out Stand Up Yumi Chung. Next, I have the book and verse that I confused earlier. This is called Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. If you guys have never read a book and verse, what it is a book that's kind of in poetry format, but not in a way you would think. So it's very short, little paragraphs, short sentences, and it goes very quickly. You read it very quickly. But for this specific one, Other Words for Home, what it is a story of a girl who has to immigrate to America, which is really scary, leaving your country and moving to a whole new place. And the world's very, very different, and it's a different language, and it's all of these really scary things, but she has to do it because America is a more safe place for her than where she's currently living. And it's her going from her home country and everything she knows to a whole nother world. Think about it, if you guys try to move to China, it's a whole different culture, it's a whole different language. It'd be crazy pants, and you'd have to adjust and learn the language and the culture and what's okay and what's not okay really quickly. So this is her story of moving to America with her mother and how she kind of figures out what home can mean. So the next book I have for you guys is quite amazing. If you guys haven't read Jason Reynolds, you're missing out. Definitely check him out. You might have read Track or Ghost or one of his other books. They're really, really great. He writes really quick, snappy books. So this book is called Look Both Ways, and it's the story of what happens on the walk home from school. And it's a collection of 10 different stories of what happens to kids when they walk from school to their home after school. But the thing is, this book starts out as any good book would start out, with a school bus falling from the sky, obviously. And all these people with their stories are too busy, too wrapped up in their worlds to see the school bus falling from the sky. But along the way, you kind of realize that not everything is as it seems, not everything looks the way you think it does, and that sometimes you have to look deeper. And sometimes the way people are in school is completely different than the way they are at home. And you should definitely give people a chance. So this is a really quick, short read. If you like short stories, or if you like funky narratives or just great writing, definitely check this out. This book is also hilarious. The opening chapter is about how we're all actually just made of boogers. I'll leave it at that. So the next book I have is actually a graphic novel. So graphic novels are absolutely a valid form of reading. They are great. If chapter books are a little bit too much for you, graphic novels are a great way to get into books a little bit more. So this book is by Jerry Craft, and it's called New Kid. And it's about what you would think, being a new kid at a new school, but also being a new kid at a new school that you might not be like everyone else, whether that's living in a different neighborhood than them, or you have a different religion or culture or something like that. And the fact that sometimes people make assumptions about that and it's really not fair, or they call you a different name and they're not willing to learn your actual name. That's super frustrating and it's really rude. So this book is about Jerry and his first year at a brand new school. It's this really impressive, really important prep school that he has to go to so he can get into a better college eventually. He's in middle school when he starts this. And he loves drawing, and he has a couple friends from home, but he has to learn how to make new friends and how to balance these new friends who aren't his home friends, and the fact that you can have friends from both, and that's okay. So if you like graphic novels and you like learning about what it's like to be a new kid at school, if you've ever been the new kid at school, this is a book that you're really, really gonna like. So for our last book, I have Port Chicago 50. This is the only book that I have in our list that's a little bit older. And by older, I mean like 2017. It's like 3 years old. It's not super old. So if you guys like nonfiction, this book is great. This book is a World War II book, which is usually pretty popular. And it is about the first, one of the first civil rights movements in the military. So there was an all African American Legion of Navy soldiers, and what happens is, unfortunately, there's a giant explosion and a bunch of them pass away before there's no hope. They're sleeping and there's a giant explosion, and unfortunately it kills a lot of them. But what happens as a result is they don't fix what caused the explosion. The Navy just tells them, get back to work, let's go. But the conditions are unsafe. So what they do is they actually, what the military would call mutiny, and they say, no, we're not going to go back. We're not going to go back until it's safe. They actually go against their superiors and they fight for their own safety and their own rights, which is absolutely something that people should do. You have a right to be safe. And Port Chicago 50 is a story of what it was like to try and do that as an African American back before everything was necessarily as good as it is now. And they were treated a lot worse. So if you like history and you like learning about military history or civil rights, definitely check this out. So those are all the books that I have for you guys. If you have any questions or you want some more book recommendations, or none of these really jived with you, by all means feel free to call the library, ask for me, ask from Azra, ask from Miss Chris. We can definitely give you a whole bunch of suggestions, or you can email us. So again, make sure that you are logging your reading. You're logging this if you watch this. I'll put the Beanstack code down in the comments so you guys can have it. And I really hope you guys are having a great summer. We really miss you here at the library, and hopefully we'll be able to see you soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys soon.